All right, here we go. It's great to have you on another. Oh, excuse me. Didn't pull that down. All right. It's great to have you here on another Monday evening for the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast exclusively on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It's great to have you. Dalton, how you feeling, my friend? You're not on much sleep. Congratulations are in order for our new dad in the chat now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my baby daughter arrived a week before Friday, so back on the 22nd. It's been a whirlwind over the last 10 days, and unsurprisingly, last week doing a show was not really in the cards, seeing as I was still in the hospital. But yeah, very exciting stuff happening. Since then I've been able to catch up on a little bit of baseball and kind of get back into the swing of things. But yeah, excited to talk some ball and excited about some pretty cool stuff happening in my life.
You know, I'm surprised that we're taking the time here to do our show in lieu of you maybe catching some Z's, some much needed sleep since since the baby's been born. But we appreciate.
At some point the show's got to go on. So we'll do our best, but I can't promise you that there won't be any chaos around me. I've got family in town. I'm in the midst of a move. I'm guessing you might hear a dog barking or a baby crying at some point, but we're here.
We're here. We manage. So plenty of stuff to go over today. We haven't been here in a couple of weeks, so there's plenty of stuff to hit on. Obviously, the big news is the initial proposal for a salary cap, right? That was made between the owners and the players. That's going to be talked about a little bit today. The White Sox and Nationals. I know we're kind of thinking what those teams, how those teams go together. But which of those teams are having a more surprising season to date, and which one are we more sort of implored to watch? That's going to come up a little bit later as well. How do we feel about who are we buying into at this point? Who in the playoff picture are we buying into? Who could stay there? Who's in the playoff picture that might be potentially falling out? That'll come up a little bit later as well. But first, we start with our own teams, just like we always do, right? So Dodgers, Yankees. We haven't been here in a while. I gotta, I gotta get back into the groove of things too. Dalton, you're the two-time defending champs, so you get to go first, my friend. Tell us what is new, what is happening, all the current events here in Dodgerland.
Yeah, I mean, since we last spoke, the Dodgers have taken a few hits from an injury perspective, and yet they've started playing much better baseball. I think the last time you and I spoke 2 to 3 weeks ago, they were kind of just like treading water, sitting first place or barely in second place in the division, but the optics weren't great. And since then, I think they've really turned a corner. This last week they went 5-1, sweeping the Rockies, taking 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. Before that, really successful road trip that saw them win series in both San Diego and Milwaukee after sweeping the Angels in Anaheim. So, we're off of, I think it's at least 5 straight series wins. It could be more than that. Teams clicking well, doing that despite Blake Snell being on the injured list. Kyler Glass now is out. Edwin Diaz is both out and maybe involved in cockfighting. We don't know what's going on there. And now, Mookie Betts missed some time. Now he's back, which is a nice boon for the Dodgers. But now you lose Teoscar Hernandez for a while. So they're weathering it. The nice thing for the Dodgers is there's a lot on the shelf. And, when you lose one guy, other guys get an opportunity. And if you were to ask me what I'm most excited about right now, Andy Pages, I think at this point, it's not really a breakout anymore. This is the second year in a row where he's just a star in this league. That's just who he is. Mm-hmm. You can say what you will about his playoff run last year, but this was a top 20-ish outfielder in baseball last year. He's a top 10-ish outfielder in baseball this year. And that's a really exciting thing for the Dodgers. So, between him, Justin Robleski, full breakout, he's a frontline starter now. Roki Sasaki, Mike, has turned a corner. Yeah. And is starting to look like the guy we thought we were signing, which, credit
shocker
to the Dodgers for what's that?
I said shocker.
Yeah, well, credit to the Dodgers for sticking that out though, because I had reached a point with him where I was about ready to say, let's just throw him in the bullpen where it seems like he can, consolidate things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they've continued to give him chances in the rotation, and he was pretty dominant against the Phillies the other day. So, um, when guys get hurt, other guys get opportunities, and for the Dodgers, that just means we continue to find more and more talent waiting in the wings. So,
Yeah.
not much to complain about. I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, listen. You look at what they are statistically. They're either first or second in damn near every category on both sides. They are obviously dominating baseball just like everybody thought they would. Surprisingly, they don't have the best record in the National League. That belongs to the Atlanta Braves. The first team to 40 wins is them. They've seemed to really turn a corner. I'm sure we'll mention them at some point later today too. And yeah, I mean, that's I will say the Dodgers do have a very significant weakness, and I'm surprised you haven't brought it up yet. As in pure outrage, they rank 26th in baseball right now in stolen bases, and I think that really could be the killer for them in their season. They lack speed. Dalton, does that concern you at all?
Not particularly, but part of it is because to actually address that, because that is pretty funny. I think if it came down to it, and they felt like they needed to run more, I think they could. Like Shohei just hasn't really run because he hasn't felt the need to. If you get into a playoff series that makes a difference, I think you'll see him run. But yeah, we're just gonna have to hit. Just gonna have to hit our way around the bases.
Yeah, I guess so.
I will say this too. This is like sneaky a really big series in the NL West this week. Dodgers going to Arizona for 4 games. Obviously for the Dodgers, you could lose all 4 and you're still in a pretty good position, and it's not going to mean all that much. But for Arizona, a team that has turned it on and gotten hotter and looked better, this is an opportunity for them to show that they are ready to turn a corner as they start to get healthy. Now, I know they just got swept over the weekend, but I'm speaking more generally over the last month or so. That's a team that, they look to me a little bit more likely than the Padres to be the second place team in that division right now.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's certainly possible that that's the case. All right, let me shift focus here to the Yankees. So I mean, recently I've been fairly happy. They've won 6 of their last 7. They swept the Kansas City Royals in Kansas City. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the American League at this point. I that's really surprising, right? The 2 worst teams in the American League right now are the Tigers and the Royals, who are teams that we were potentially talking about, like walking away with that division. They're 2 of the worst teams right now in the American League. Obviously, last night was a very interesting game in Sacramento with a 13-run third inning for the Yankees. They ended up winning that game 13-8. The pitching certainly did not necessarily show up for the Yankees in that matchup. Tim Hill got roughed up a little bit. Obviously, I think the biggest concern for Yankee fans, and obviously it should be, is the bullpen still sucks. I mean, it really is kind of teetering on like, all right, this is really a big issue. I'm not that high on David Bednar as a closer. Like, I think as a setup guy, I'd still be comfortable putting him in high leverage situations. I don't know that I would feel as comfortable with him going deep into the playoffs with him as the guy that I can go to get big outs. So that's certainly something I think the Yankees need to address, whether that's internally or externally, right? I'm sure they'll go to the deadline. They'll try to acquire some more relief arms, and they'll try to patch that issue up. I also think you're going to be seeing some of these, right, like as the Yankee rotation gets healthier, and we've sort of seen it already, right, with Rodon is now back, Garrett Cole's now back, and both of them actually look very, very good, especially Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole has been fantastic since he's come back. But now Max Fried is also shelved. So, again, as these guys get healthier, you're going to be rolling out Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, Carlos Rodon, and then whoever you want as your 5th guy, whether it be Will Warren or Ryan Weathers. And both of those guys have been outstanding this year. Also, you're going to have a surplus of guys, right? I think a lot of your young guys this year, your Elmer Rodriguez's, your Carlos Legranes, like those guys, I think some of your top tier younger guys are going to start supplementing your bullpen a little bit. The hitting for the Yankees has been a little bit streaky. And again, I kind of said it to begin this season. That's kind of what I just expect this team to be. Like, I think they're going to get really hot when they're hot, and they're going to get really cold when they're cold. Aaron Judge is having a down year. He's got, a down year for his standards. He's got a 908 OPS, which is still really great, but he's
hilarious down year. Hilarious down year.
It's hysterical, but for his standards over the past 4 years, Aaron Judge is having a little bit of a slower start. I mean, Dalton, is it safe to say that Ben Rice is just a star? Like, that kid is just one of the top 10 hitters in all of baseball. Like, he's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like I talked about with Andy Pajas, right? Where, like, once a guy does it into that second year, where you see it carry through an off season, to me, that's when you really start buying in. So I would say so.
Yeah, I'm there with him already. Cody Bellinger has been really, really good. The plus side really also is that Jazz Chisholm is starting to kind of elevate again. He was brutal for the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
And now for the past couple of weeks, he's definitely turned it up a little bit. Gotten that OPS to about around 700. It was hovering at like 550 for like a while. So listen, I think when it comes to like where they're going to be, like, I just look at the Yankees as like, I'm in on the fact that they're going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the American League by the end of the season. Like, Tampa Bay is just on a ridiculous run right now. But I think as far as like sustainability is concerned, I would say in the American League, at least, I think the Yankees have the most like secure spot. Like, I really see them as kind of like the team that I feel safest about moving forward right now.
Yeah, I think the Yankees are pretty comfortably the team that should feel best in the American League. And look, I mean, for the Rays, you and I talked about them a couple weeks ago. Like, I think they deserve a ton of credit for just continuing to double down on the guys that they do believe in and making smart moves around the edges. And I guess part of what's most surprising for them is some of the moves that they've made haven't really worked. Like, Cedric Mullins has been awful, but just having a healthy Shane McClanahan and Drew Rasmussen and guys like that in the rotation, they just continue to churn out winning baseball. And at a certain point, you have to wonder if Kevin Cash was, somewhere else with a team that invested a little more monetarily. You have to wonder how good of a manager he might be historically. But but enough about the Rays. I mean, look, for the Yankees, I think this is. You and I talked preseason about how a lot of the goal for them was like just tread water, stay above 500, keep yourself in a good place so that as Rodon and Cole start to trickle back into the rotation, you're not like coming from behind. Well, mission accomplished on that front. I think bullpen help is something that you can address during a season, both internally and externally. So I do think that that's something that'll sort itself out. Mike, I also want to mention Anthony Volpe to you, because it sounds like he is starting to figure it out a little bit. Are you buying in on him potentially still being the future at shortstop, or not at all?
I don't know that I'm buying into him being the future at shortstop, because I really think the Yankees like Lombard a lot.
Yeah.
But Volpe's had 3 straight years of just not that good. Like, he's a 660 OPS guy.
Yeah.
But this year he's got a 385 on base percentage. He's got a 780 OPS. So that's not terrible. You know what I mean? Like, him and Jose Caballero have not been awful at shortstop. So, yeah, I mean, look, the thing with Volpe for me, I still think he strikes out too much, but I also think that he went into this offseason saying that I got to put the ball in play more, and he does. He puts the ball in play more. He's hitting for less power, whatever. But in those 13 games, he hasn't been completely unproductive. So I'm not out yet, but I'm not 100% bought in either.
Fair enough.
That's me. That's me. But I also one more thing I want to mention. I really hope that the Yankees are at some point going to get Stanton back. He'll extend that lineup big time. He really does. And I know it gives him a little bit more versatility with that DH spot. That he's not in the lineup, right? If you need Judge to get a day off, right? If you want to keep Rice and Goldschmidt in the lineup at the same time, you can easily do that with that DH spot open. But when Stanton is healthy, and again, he's even in his older age, Stanton is still super productive as an offensive player. So if they can just get him back, I think that would really go a long way for their offense as well. All right, quick score update. Before we get into anything else, the Tigers right now with an 8-2 lead over the Rays in Tampa Bay. That's in the bottom of the sixth. Tigers with the worst record in the American League, Dalton. The worst. They won the division last year.
Wow.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Wild card team last year, but we're this close to winning the division. They're the worst team in the American League right now. That's bizarre to me. What's happening?
I mean, I think it's a few things. Number one, I think the entire lineup has regressed at once, right? These were guys that going into last year, we did not believe in. And a lot of them overperformed for portions of that season. But you and I talked about it at last trade deadline. They didn't do anything to invest in an offense that was kind of on thin ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they sputtered down the stretch of last season, gave up the division to Cleveland, and then again, didn't really invest in that offense this offseason.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise to us that the offense came crashing down to earth. You look at the flip side of it. Well, Tarek Skubal missing time obviously hurts. Framber Valdez has not been the guy they thought that they were getting. And the bullpen's been a disaster. They're leaning way too heavily on older guys that are not producing. I mean, I feel bad for Kenley Jansen at 38, but like he's clearly not an answer for them. So,
yeah, right.
I think Detroit, like, I think we need to be a little bit more realistic in who that team was going to be going into this year, right? I think like the median expectation on them going into this season was probably about a 500 team, if we're being honest about the roster. And so when you think of them that way, when you think of them as this is a team that we thought could have been mediocre and they're bad, suddenly that gap doesn't seem so wide. But because they set a different expectation last year by overperforming by almost all metrics what they should have been, it makes where they're at now feel a lot more extreme than it really is.
Yeah. So again, 8-2 Tigers with a lead right now against Tampa. That's in Tampa Bay in the bottom of the sixth. Nationals with a 3-1 lead over the Marlins in Washington. They're heading into the sixth now. The Royals with a 4-1 lead in Cincinnati. That's in the bottom of the fourth. Royals kind of the same story. I mean, they just have not put it together this season. Brewers right now with a 7-2 lead over the Giants. That's in Milwaukee. They're in the bottom of the second. Who did they tattoo off of? Bottom of the second. The Landon Raup gave up 7 earned on 6 hits in 1 2/3. So he got shelled. Twins with a 1-0 lead in the top of the third over the White Sox. That's in Minnesota. And then the Rangers and Cardinals are scoreless in the bottom of the second. That's in St. Louis. Later tonight, a couple West Coast matchups. The Rockies and Angels, a riveting playoff potential matchup between the Colorado Rockies and the Anaheim Angels. Kyle Freeland and Jose Soriano. Jose Soriano has actually been very, very good for the Angels this season. 2.65 ERA. 6-4 is the record on that 2.65 ERA, but I digress. Dodgers and Diamondbacks. That's in Arizona. Emmett Sheehan and Eduardo Rodriguez. That is happening at 9:40 in Arizona. Eddie Rodriguez has actually been very, very good for them as well. 2.31 ERA on his part. And then it is the Mets and Mariners. That is in Seattle, and it's Austin Warren and Emerson Hancock in that matchup.
Yeah, for those wondering, that's Austin Warren opening for Sean Manaea.
Yeah. So Seattle, by the way, 8-2 of their last 10. They've climbed back up and taken that division lead. I mean, the AL West as a whole has just been kind of a shit show, to say the least. The A's were on top of that division for a while with a sub 500 record, but the Mariners kind of leaped up a little bit. I mean, how do we feel? Are we like, is this kind of looking more normal, Dalton, or is this still kind of weird?
No, I mean, I think Seattle's the best team in that division and has always been the team that is the pick there. right? I mean, it's the most. I mean, I think I would argue Seattle's the second most complete roster in the American League behind the Yankees. So, if anything, it's a surprise that they're only 31-29 and they're only just starting to pull away. They obviously haven't really lived up to expectations so far this season. I mean, Mike, you look at the American League as a whole. You've got the Yankees at a +98 run differential, and then Seattle's second best at +30. So.
Yeah.
I mean, even Tampa's got the best record in the American League, but they're 19. I mean, their expected win-loss is like 30-26, right? So, I think Seattle should pull away there. That's kind of always been the expectation, and the rest of that division has kind of just been mush.
Mm-hmm. So interesting that we see all that, but okay. Let's shift really quickly to the proposed salary caps that was negotiated. So this is obviously a very controversial topic when it comes to baseball fans. There are a lot of people that are for it. There are a lot of people that are very much against it. I am of the belief that I just don't see a salary cap happening because I don't think the players will ever agree to it. As of right now, the proposed hard salary cap for Major League Baseball is $245.3 million. But with that also came a salary floor of $171.2 million. As of right now, I believe that there are 15 teams in Major League Baseball that are below the salary floor, and there are only 9 teams within that range of the floor and the cap at the moment. What was it? There was, 6 teams, I think, that were above it, right? Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Phillies. I think there were a couple of others in that mix as well. Blue Jays, I think, are in that list also. So, again, this is obviously a very controversial topic when it comes to it. I think we're very much headed for a work stoppage at some point next year. I don't know, Dalton, how do we feel right now with the initial proposal? Obviously, this is going to be a long, hard-headed, relationship-breaking negotiation. What do we make of this right now?
All right. I got a few things to say here. So I'll start with this. This proposal from Major League Baseball, which is the one that got the headlines. The MLBPA also put forth a proposal, like most of which is just going to be, hey, let's keep things the same. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, makes infinitely more sense than changing things. But to give some context, right? MLB is going to give a proposal. It's going to be the extreme on one end to start the negotiation. Players Association is going to give the extreme on the other end. Both sides knowing that between now and next spring, hopefully next winter, but more likely next spring, those sides are going to come closer together. At what rate they come closer together, I don't know. If there is a salary cap, I'd be willing to bet it's going to be more than $245 million. If there is a salary floor, I'd be willing to bet it's going to be more than $171 million. I'll say that to start, because MLB is giving you their baseline here, right? This is their.
You think the salary floor is going to be more than $171 million then?
Both numbers will go in the players' favor if those things ever became a thing.
Interesting.
Because MLB is not going to they're going to give you their like they're giving themselves room to negotiate, right? Both sides.
Yep.
So,
sure. Yep.
From a starting point, I want to point that out. I then want to go into just the utter silliness of all of this. First of all, like, as a baseball fan, like, you cannot look at the game with a straight face right now and tell me that it's broken, that it's not working, that it's not popular. Baseball is as popular as it's been since the steroid era right now. As much as I don't like the pitch clock, it's been a resounding success as far as fan interest. The game is in an incredibly healthy place, and Major League Baseball will go out of their way to tell you that every chance they get, except for when it comes time for the owners to take more money and the players to take a little bit less. And I want to make it clear, this is not about competitive balance. Major League Baseball wants you to believe that this is about competitive balance because that's the bill of goods that they want to sell you. This has literally zero to do with competitive balance. This is entirely about who is going to make a larger slice of the pie moving forward, whether it's players or whether it's owners. If you're like me, you don't particularly care, right? I'm generally going to side with labor. I generally would prefer that the players who I'm actually paying to go see make more of the money than they are now, and the owners maybe make a little bit less. That's just my sensibilities, right? But make no bones about it, like when somebody tries to sell you on the idea that this is about competitive balance, that's not what this is about, Mike.
Right.
Major League Baseball for the last 25 years at a minimum has been the league with the most parity out of the 4 major sports in the United States. It has the most different World Series participants. It has the greatest variation year to year in teams that make the playoffs. It is without a doubt, numerically, statistically, however you want to put it, the sport with the most parity. That is not up for debate. That's a statistical fact. Okay, so number one, parity is not an issue in Major League Baseball. Number two, if we are going to suggest that a salary cap is necessary, in order for that to be the case, you would have to argue to me that teams that are above that current number are creating an unfair playing field for everybody else. Well, naturally, Mike, I would expect to see that then in the standings, wouldn't I? So let me ask you this. What percentage of teams, and just work with me here, right? Because I'm going to take you on a little back and forth. This is going to sound silly, but I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
There are 30 teams in Major League Baseball, okay? 12 of them make the playoffs. Okay, that's 40% of the league. Okay. Out of the top 15 teams in payroll, what percentage of those 15 are in a playoff spot right now, if you had to guess?
I don't know. Probably, I would guess half. Probably half.
Sure. 40%. So 6 of the top 15 teams are in a playoff spot right now. How many teams does that mean are in a playoff spot out of the bottom 15 teams in payroll?
That would mean they're in the bottom half of the league.
That would mean 6 as well.
Right.
So right now, we've got 6 of the top 15 in payroll in the playoffs, 6 of the bottom 15 in baseball in the playoffs. Okay, so I look at that and I go, that seems pretty balanced, Mike. It doesn't seem like payrolls are actually affecting who makes the playoffs that much. But then you think, oh yeah, but there's got to be one team that's just running away and causing problems for everybody else, right? Let's figure out who has the highest payroll in baseball. Oh, it's the New York Mets. Well, they've got to be just kicking everybody's ass, right, Mike? 26 and 33, 13 and a half games out of their division, negative run differential.
They're also the Mets, but yes.
Yeah, but that's funny because I was told that the team that was causing all these problems was the Dodgers. That's a bummer. Well, Mike, the Mets better start winning if we're going to support a salary cap, right? So the team that's spending the most is not pulling away. There's no correlation at all right now between who is winning the most games and in a playoff position and who is spending the most money. There's no argument for any of this. But the most ridiculous side of this, because it's not about competitive balance, Mike, that's kind of what I said in the beginning. They're going to try to sell you on the fact that it's about competitive balance. And let me tell you this right now. It pains me to say this as a Dodger fan, but Major League Baseball wants the Dodgers to win the World Series this year, because if the Dodgers win the World Series, they're going to continue to try to rile up fans and make this more about players being greedy and we need a salary cap and the Dodgers are a problem.
Yeah.
There's no statistical basis for that. They know that. But the most ridiculous part of all of this, let's say you're a fan of the Cleveland Guardians, Mike. Okay. And you look at your team making the playoffs more often than not over the last 10 years or so. And you look at your payroll and you're 29th in payroll with $80 million on the books.
Right.
And your owner is coming out publicly. And now I get it. Yeah, the Dolans haven't come out publicly in support of what the MLB is doing, but they're behind this, right? This is MLB speaking for the owners, the commissioner speaking for the owners. So they're coming out and they're saying, we're so poor, we can't compete with the Dodgers. But look at us, we're still making the playoffs, so we can't compete financially. Oh, wait. Oh, you're telling me there's an opportunity for me to up my payroll by $91 million and be required to do that? Sign me up.
Yeah.
You can't cry poor and then support a salary floor that is you more than doubling what you're currently paying your players. You can't do that. It doesn't make sense, Mike.
I agree.
So they're telling on themselves and they're counting on fans not being smart enough to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I think my big gripe with everything, first of all, and I think Honestly, I think blame can be put on both sides as far as the negotiations are concerned. I think players are getting too greedy, and I think owners are getting too cheap. I think that's really, honestly, that's how I feel about the whole thing. But one of the things that I think like vehemently is that a salary cap is never going to happen in Major League Baseball because the players will simply never agree to it. They won't ever agree. They can, the owners and the league could fight until they're blue in the face. The players will not agree to it because it hinders their ability to make money, and the league, it doesn't hinder their ability to make money at all. So again, it's a one-sided negotiation. I also think just logistically, it doesn't work. So there's a couple questions I have, right? The proposed salary cap that hit all of the news is that this would take place starting in 2027. So that would mean that the Mets, who have a $360 million payroll, I'm rounding, I don't know what their actual payroll is, but that would mean the Mets would have to shave their payroll by $120 million in 1 year. How is that going to work? They're just going to release guys. They're going to trade guys for nothing. That's the part of it. That's one part of it that I generally don't get. The other part of it that I don't get is that I have never, and I mean never, been a proponent of a salary floor. Never. And I get that in theory it makes sense to everybody because it's forcing some of the owners that don't spend as much money to spend more. I don't think that there are enough players worthy of a contract, like as far as value, to have every team over $180 million in payroll. I just don't think there are. You're gonna overpay guys. You're gonna lock yourself up in so many bad contracts and so many like unfit commitments with players just to get over the threshold. Like, it's just not going to happen, right? If you're the Tampa Bay Rays and you have a $60 million payroll and you have to spend $110 million in free agency per year just to get yourself over the threshold, like how do you suppose on doing that? You have to remember, free agents have to want to go to you. It's not just you can hand them money and say, okay, you're with my team now. They have to want to go. Like, the Tampa Bay Rays could have made a $700 million offer to Kyle Tucker this year, and he still might not have gone. Like, those things have to be considered also. So I think for a lot of teams, and a lot of people that are for the salary cap, I get it, right? I get all the salary restraints because the NBA has one and the NFL has one. And I get it. Most leagues have it. Major League Baseball, I just think, is different. The rosters are bigger, right? You have players in Major League Baseball that are just making absurd amount of monies for an absurd length of time, right? You don't see 15-year contracts in the NFL. They don't exist, right? You see 15-year Juan Soto just signed a 15-year, $765 million contract 2 years ago. Like, that'll never happen in the NFL, ever. It's just a different game. So, listen, I think, honestly, I think the players are crazy for thinking that, there's more money to be made. First of all, I think the amount of money that you're making now is about as inflated as you can possibly get. And I also think the owners, in some respect, like you said, there are some owners that need to spend more money. But if you try to force those guys to spend more money, then you're just making the league one inflated real estate pool where nobody can afford anybody anymore. You can't, imagine how hard the trade deadline would be, right? If you were the Dodgers and the Dodgers needed to add a starting pitcher, right? And they're at $245 million. They can't go over. How do you do that? So now you have to trade down from that payroll number and figure out who fits what. Do you know how painful it is? It sounds like the NBA. Do you know how painful NBA trades are when it comes to draft pick protections? And it's all ridiculous. Is that really what Major League Baseball wants? Is that what people want to see? Do they want to see headache, trade, financial crap? That's going to drive people away from the sport, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, Mike, look, the reality is that Major League Baseball, what they're doing is they are preying on fans who are thinking very simple-mindedly, right? Like they're preying on fans who are like, my Guardians spending way less than Dodgers. Dodgers better than my Guardians. Unfair. And people who do not think beyond that. Because once you start thinking anywhere beyond that, you start realizing, wait a minute, like, no, Major League Baseball makes a whole thing about the trade deadline. That's a whole event for them. MLB Network does an entire day of programming about it. Wait, what happens to that? Right? Like there are like that point you just made is one of so many where it's just like, do Major League Baseball fans want to learn about second aprons? Like, no, like it doesn't make the sport better. By the way, Mike, a thought experiment for you. The Dodgers' current adjusted payroll total is $302 million. Okay. So in this thought experiment, the Dodgers would need to shed, we'll call it $65 million. Okay. The Dodgers have prospects up and down the minor leagues that are blocked right now. That would be starters in the lineup for a lot of teams. Okay. That costs nothing.
Yeah.
If like let's say this happened at this number, which by the way it's not going to. If it happens, it's going to come. It's going to happen. If it were to happen, which I don't think it will, it would happen at a number higher than this. Probably pretty close to the Dodgers' current payroll. By the way,
it would be $300 million. It would be around $300 million.
In which case, the Dodgers would not really have to do anything. But
the Mets would. But that's it.
But even the Mets would have to shed maybe a player or two. Like. And so like that's the part of this that I also find really funny is like all these fans who are just like, yeah, it would ruin no, the Dodgers would be fine. The Dodgers would still be the best team in baseball. Sorry, they would. Especially because if you think about what shedding that looks like for the Dodgers, if because with a salary cap would have to come some sort of ability for the Dodgers to just get out of contracts. That's the only way that would work, right?
Yeah.
And so you figure, okay, fine. You know what? We won't pay Blake Treinen $14 million. We won't pay Tanner Scott $13 million. We won't pay Miguel Rojas $6 million next year. We won't pay Eric Lauer $5 million next year. You know what? Let's not pay Santiago Espinal $2.5 million next year. And you know what? While we're at it, let's look at our guys who are injured and not even contributing. Do we need to pay Brusdar Graterol $3 million? Do we need to pay Evan Phillips $6.5 million? Does Tommy Edman need $12 million? Does Teoscar Hernandez, as he gets older and is being made irrelevant by our million outfield prospects, do we need to be paying him $15 million next year? Probably not, right? Did I just name any of the guys that people are mad about? No,
not really.
No, and that would easily get the Dodgers to that number. So like, be careful what you wish for, fans of other teams too, because it's not going to result in what you think it's going to result in, even if it was at that number, which it's not going to be.
It won't be.
And think about everything else you're giving up to get there. Like you're giving up all of this goodwill that you feel like you have of, yeah, but I root for the underdog. You don't root for the underdog. You root for a cheap owner who's already admitting to you that he can spend more than twice what he's spending now. Listen to him when he tells you that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, to me, it's like it would make Major League Baseball one big puzzle. That's what it would be, right? Well, imagine saying, the Dodgers having to tell Teoscar Hernandez, well, sorry, Teoscar, we can't pay you anymore because we're over this salary cap. So we need to send you to Colorado to spend the next 4 years of your career because they need to get to the threshold. Like,
oh, it's a logistic nightmare.
It's a crazy, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. So yeah, it's never going to happen. All right, let's shift our focus to, there's two teams really that you sent me, Dalton, that are intriguing, right? The Chicago White Sox right now are in a playoff spot. They're 32-27. They're the second wild card team in the American League. They're only a few games behind the Yankees in that respect. They're 32-27. They have had a very surprising start to the year. By the way, kind of piggybacking off of what we just talked about in a way. And then the Washington Nationals, who are 31-29. By the way, just for perspective, there are 4 teams total in the National League with a sub 500 record. The Mets, the Marlins, the Giants, and the Rockies have sub 500 records right now. Everybody else is over 500. Nationals 31-29. They're a half game ahead of the Phillies, where if I would have told you at any point in the year that the Nationals would have had a better record than the Phillies, everybody would have had me admitted. So, Dalton, what do you make of this? What's surprising you more? What do you make of this?
Yeah. I want to make one comment before I answer that question directly, just because you mentioned, you're like, yeah, the White Sox and the Nationals, they fit what you were just talking about. For what it's worth, for all of our, baseball's unfair people, the bottom 7 teams in baseball in salary right now, we're talking the Rays, the A's, the Cardinals, the Nationals, the White Sox, the Guardians, and the Marlins. 5 of those 7 teams currently reside in the playoffs. When I look at the top 7, Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Toronto, Philly, Atlanta, Houston, it's only 4. So more bottom 7 teams than top 7 teams are in playoff spots currently.
And to be honest, just one more thing, because as you say that, there kind of in lies the problem with baseball itself, right? Because I really think the big issue when it comes to like owners spending money is the fact that this is what baseball is.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, not always do the teams that spend big money win all the time. You can win on a low payroll. That's why it's
statistically
justified.
speaking, there's almost no correlation to it historically.
Right.
I know that's hard for people to believe because there are they see the Yankees of the late 90s and they see the Dodgers of right now, but they don't talk about what the 2010s looked like, where you had a whole decade of just total chaos and it's not always this way. There are going to be ebbs and flows to this stuff, but it's just, anyway. White Sox and Nationals. First of all, what makes these teams so fun, Mike, and the reason I'm so excited to talk about them is that they're 2 of the top 4 teams in baseball in terms of runs scored, which is just completely absurd. And what's really fun right now about being a fan of a team like one of those is you're watching your team's rebuild work in real time. If you're the Nationals, you're watching James Wood become one of the most exciting players to watch in the game. You're watching guys like Keibert Ruiz kind of figure it out and look consistent, right? You're watching all these young players turn into stars and be really exciting to watch. And you think about where the Nationals are now, Mike, it reminds me a little bit of the Cubs back in 2012, 13, 14, where you're starting to put together an offensive core and you can build pitching later. The way the Cubs built that 2016 title team and the team that was in contention for those years was they developed Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo. I know they got him from the Padres, but still, right? That's the guy they got basically when he was in Miami. They developed that core of offensive studs and then went and got pitching when they were ready to compete. That's what's fun for the Nationals right now is you're kind of in a position where you're getting close to that. And it's the same thing. It's a little bit different for Chicago. They've been the Nationals have been all hitting, no pitching. White Sox are a little more balanced, but I mean, what a blast on the South side. When the Cubs came to town, that place was packed. Munetaka Murakami is one of the most exciting players in baseball. Obviously, it's a shame that he's going to miss some time due to injury. So I'll say this, to answer your question directly, I'm more excited generally about the Nationals. I think what they're building might be a little bit more sustainable more soon in terms of the actual team. But in terms of which team has a chance to make a splash on the standings right now, it's the White Sox because they're in the AL Central. And the team that they're chasing right now at the top of that division, the Cleveland Guardians, who, by the way, they're only 1 game behind, Guardians roster is not special. And we just talked about how they're spending $80 million on it, Mike, so they must be bad.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, the Guardians are terrible because they spend $80 million on it. But, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think the White Sox are I'm expecting at some point the White Sox to come back down to earth just because I don't see it with the roster yet, right? We're going to do a segment in a few minutes where we're talking about teams that are in a playoff spot that we think could fall out and teams that are not in the playoffs that could jump in. Spoiler alert, I think the White Sox are eventually going to come back down to earth. I just don't see it with their pitching. I don't know. I think they have the young talent to hit enough, right? Colson Montgomery, Murakami obviously was tearing it up before he got hurt. They've got some guys that can, lay the bat on the ball, but I just think pitching wise, eventually it's just going to regress back to the mean for the White Sox. But the Nationals, I actually kind of buy a little bit. Now, I don't think that they're going to leap up into a playoff spot because I think the National League is just so stacked that the window for them to get in there just is not going to be a thing. But yeah, dude, they hit like crazy. They hit like crazy. I mean, like Dalen Lyle's a real player. James Wood, CJ Abrams has a 933 OPS this year, dude. Like he was kind of bad last year, and now he's like rocketing. Yeah, all they do is hit, man. I mean, they really do like have this really potent lineup, and they're finding, so many of these guys that like were nobodies, right? Like Jacob Young is whatever, Nasim Nunez is whatever, but like they're getting so much production out of the guys that like we knew would come up and produce, right? The Abrams, the Woods of the world, like those guys that like they're actually finding ways to produce runs. And it's fun to watch. Now, I think their division, like I said, is a bloodbath because I think the Phillies are going to get better as the season progresses. Obviously, Atlanta right now is sitting as the best team in baseball right now. So they have a pretty steep hill to climb, just as far as the National League is in general. But they're fun. They're fun, Dalton. They're fun.
They are, and it just brings me back to that Juan Soto trade that the Padres made. I mean, like James Wood and CJ Abrams alone, and that's without even mentioning Mackenzie Gore, who the Nationals got some production out of, and then were able to flip for prospects. And man, you wonder what that Padres farm system could have been had they held on to all these dudes that they've traded away over the years. But yeah, no, the Nationals they're just incredibly fun. Like there's something to be said for if a team's not going to be good, you at least want them to be fun to watch. And the Nationals are in that category. It reminds me a little bit of Oakland last year, which unfortunately is kind of where I see the ceiling for the Nationals. Like I don't like, especially in that division, but I mean, hell of a team to watch.
They're fun. They're fun. And they're not even not good. Like they're solid. They're a solid baseball team this year. So yeah, super interesting as far as that's concerned. All right. So let's talk about some of these teams that are in the playoffs that we think could fall out. And then maybe some guys that we're not thinking about. So what do you think, Dalton? Give me a couple of teams that are in the playoffs right now, or maybe even just one. Give me somebody that is in the playoffs that you just don't have a lot of faith in. Maybe they just regress as time goes on. What do you think?
Yeah. Two teams that come to mind for me, and I've kind of been debating which one I want to mention, but I think they're both on thin ice. The San Diego Padres. I've been one of the last people off of the Padres bandwagon over the last couple of years in terms of what I think their potential is. At this point, it's just not working. It runs scored right now. They're 25th in baseball. When I filter by WRC plus to get more of a general sense, they're 27th. This is a bad offense. Manny Machado has regressed into just not a great player. Fernando Tatis has lost his power ever since he got popped for roids. And when you and I talked about this team preseason, the issue was, well, the starting pitching is kind of left. Like Yu Darvish is somewhere. Michael King is thankfully for them. Michael King looks pretty good, but for the most part, the cupboard's kind of bare on the starting pitching side. Like they really need Griffin Canning and Lucas Giolito and Randy Vasquez. Like they need those guys to be good. And they're fortunate that they've been good enough. I think right now San Diego's about 13th in starting pitching. But that's just not this team's ticket to staying competitive in this division. And with Arizona getting healthier, I think San Diego is probably in a little bit of trouble here. So that's one team. I'll give you one more, St. Louis Cardinals. And I hate to say it because they've been one of baseball's more fun stories this year, especially
they're a darling this year, but yeah.
Watching Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker and Alec Burleson, that's been a fun team to watch. That pitching's not going to hold up. I mean, we talked about it preseason, so I won't harp on it, but that pitching's not going to hold up.
Yeah, I buy into the offensive upside, I think, for the Cardinals, right? Like Jordan Walker really does seem to have turned a corner. That guy's hitting the baseball really, really hard this year. Ivan Herrera is definitely a real solid player. They've gotten some pretty solid production out of JJ Weatherholt. They certainly do not have, as you like to say, a bare cupboard when it comes to young talent, young developable talent. But yeah, they were one of the teams I was going to mention. I just think the shelf life for them is going to run out. I just there's going to be, a team like the Cubs that's just going to jump them as time goes on because the Cubs are better. Like it's just going to be like that. It's an interesting point that you make about the Padres, right? Because like the Padres are one of those teams where like they went all in over the past several years. And now since they like fell short, like I think we're kind of just hitting the downturn at this point, right? Age is starting to catch up with them, right? Their owner, they've had a change in ownership, and that's been really, really rough for them as well.
Yeah.
So obviously that is just, and it's not even like they're struggling offensively. They're like one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in baseball offensively. They can't hit. They really can't hit. I mean, right now, if you just go down the line, Tatis has a 658 OPS. Jackson Merrill, who 2 years ago was one of the more exciting young players in the game, has a 617 OPS. Xander Bogaerts, who was actually off to a pretty good start, has regressed down to a 687. Manny Machado's at 620. Ramon Laureano's at 660, right? Gavin Sheets has an 807 OPS. He's the highlight of their offensive production right now, right? So they cannot hit the baseball. They can't do it. So I do think eventually they're going to regress, especially with a team like the Diamondbacks, who are, I just think at this point, they're just a better baseball team, Dalton. Like the Diamondbacks are just a better baseball team. So I fully believe in that. And again, in the National League, I think we're going to be seeing, a lot of these teams just sort of come up. Let's talk about the American League for a second. Is there anybody in the American League that you're just kind of low on at this point that might be overperforming?
I mean,
I kind of spoiled it with the White Sox a little bit. Like I think eventually they're going to come down.
The answer is probably the White Sox. I figured I'd give you the space to talk about them. I mean, the other team for me that I know they're in a playoff spot right now. I kind of don't really buy the Blue Jays, but we'll see.
Yeah. So let's talk about teams that could, catapult themselves into a playoff spot, maybe that are not in one right now. Dalton, who do you like? Who are we not thinking about? Or at least maybe we are thinking about, but needs to be reiterated. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer for me, there are 2 teams in the National League that have just had some really strange stretches in the first third of their season that I think are going to be just fine. And when you talk about who's going to replace the Padres and the Cardinals in the playoffs, it's going to be the Phillies and the Cubs, Mike. Like the Cubs right now, I mean, I guess they're technically tied for a wild card spot, but 32 and 28, they've hit the skids lately. It's been kind of ugly, but I just think there's way too much talent in that lineup. And I think they'll cobble together enough pitching in a division that, while it's been better than we expected, is still not great. I think Chicago will eventually pull away from Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and St. Louis. I think they're clearly the most talented of those teams. And even if they don't pass Milwaukee, I feel pretty good that the Cubs will be in the wild card spot. And the Phillies too. I mean, the Phillies are still flush with talent. They're still in get after it mode as far as what we might see from them at the deadline. Like, they're going to be a player if Skubal's traded. So yeah, I think those 2 teams will be in the playoff picture. The other one, Mike, that I'm not going to say it with any degree of confidence, but the Mets are not dead. They're not.
Yes, they are. They're dead. They're dead to me. So I agree with you. I mean, I think the Cubs are one I feel pretty confident about. The Phillies scare me a little. And again, I think that they're good, but Schwarber and Harper and a little bit of Brandon Marsh, and that's it. They've gotten the rest of their lineup's been bad. Trey Turner's been bad. So they scare me a little. They do.
No, I get it. I guess for me, I just trust that guys like Trey Turner and Bryson Stott and JT Realmuto and Adolis Garcia, there's just enough talent in the room that I think a couple of those guys will turn it around. Mm-hmm. So and again, maybe I'm just a little bit like what the Padres, man, I'm just the last guy off the bandwagon, but The other thing with the Phillies is I just think the pitching is so scary. Like
Sanchez
lining up Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez back to back is as good as any 1-2 punch in baseball.
It's gnarly.
That's a problem. Like that, So yeah, I think the pitching is too good, and I think the hitting is not this bad.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in that sense. I mean, they definitely have the talent to do it. It just depends on, whether or not like this was actually the year where the age caught up to them. Like it's sort of that conversation. And we thought there were people that said the last 2 years, like, all right, it's going to be the Mets, it's going to be the Braves because the Phillies are getting older, and then the Phillies didn't get older, and they were where they were. Now they're kind of sagging back a little bit. As far as the American League side is concerned,
hold on, Mike. But before we go, I want to make one kind of comparison that's been floating around in my mind. I feel like in some ways the question that we try to answer with a few of these National League teams is which one of them is the Houston Astros, right? Mm-hmm. Because with the Houston Astros, we've seen like the, dynasty-ish, right? Like that really solid era of Astros baseball. Right. We've seen that kind of peter out as guys have gotten older and productivity's decreased, and they've seen a few guys walk out the door. To me, there are 3 teams in the NL where I'm like, which one of these 3 is headed down that path? Maybe just 2, the Padres and the Phillies. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's entirely more likely that the Padres are headed in that direction when you think about the talent they've lost on the pitching side and the aging star. Like, to me, the Padres remind me a lot of the Astros. I think with the Phillies, we're still a year or 2 away from the classic, like, Dombrowski spent it all and now can't keep it sustainable crumble.
Right. Yeah, I think that's more than reasonable. On the AL side, I'm really intrigued by these teams that hit and can't pitch. Like, I do think that one of them is gonna get there, and I'm talking about the A's and the Orioles. Like, I think one of those teams is gonna hit. I really think, like, when it comes to Texas, I don't know, man. It's been all year for me. I just don't see it with the Rangers. They don't hit enough for me. Like they're just at the point where I don't see the offensive upside anymore. It's 2 straight years now of just simply not being able to hit.
Mike, I want to ask you a question about Texas that's going to force you to look inward as a person. Okay. It is part of it, because I kind of feel this way, which is why I'm asking this. Is part of it just that this Rangers team is so boring and you just don't really want to watch them in October?
I mean, maybe a little. They're boring. Well, because, like, I got to tell you, like, as exciting as he's been perceived, like, I'm just like, Wyatt Langford does not move the needle for me. I don't get it. Why? You know what I mean? I don't. Now, I would love for, actually, you know what? Let me just peek at his numbers really quick to make sure that I actually want this. No, I don't want it anymore. I was going to say I would love for the Yankees to get Kyle Seager, but Kyle Seager's been awful this year. So, I'm sorry, not
Kyle Seager, right? He retired a few years ago.
Corey Seager. Whatever. It's I'm tired. I don't see it with the Rangers. I haven't all year. They just don't hit enough for me. But I do think that one of the A's or the Orioles, one of these teams that can't pitch and hit a bunch, like one of them is going to sneak in over the White Sox or the Blue Jays. Like one of them will.
Are the Red Sox, are they dead?
I don't buy it. I just don't think their roster is good enough, and I don't think that they have the ownership group that's committed to winning enough to try to improve it. Like, they went all in on their young guys with Meyer and Roman Anthony, and, like, they went all in on all of those guys, and I think it's just been a very mediocre result.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They were just a team I thought was worth asking about.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the A's wake, they get me up in the morning. Like they're exciting. Because I look at the top of that lineup, Dalton, and I look at Jacob Wilson, Shea Langoliers, Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, and I'm like that's nasty. Like, that's really
I just love that the A's wake you up in the morning. Like, I'm just imagining you like you waking up to an alarm clock that's just like shining a projection of Nick Kurtz on your ceiling, and you just look up at it and smile, and you're like, I'm ready to
the Moneyball Scott Hatterberg home run is just on loop in my house. One of them is going to super excite me. All right. Moving on. Dalton, you have hot corner today. I know that you just had a baby. I
don't, Mike. I mean, I could sit here and pull up a couple games and see if one of them speaks to me, but like I haven't been doing the work to have hot corner right now. I'm barely sleeping, so no, not at the moment.
Well, listen, what better to do when you're not sleeping than to start handicapping like a maniac? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's not that I'm not sleeping because I'm not busy. I'm not sleeping because we have a newborn. So,
all right, that does it for us. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast. It's great to have you every Monday, 8:00 Eastern. We will see you next week.